It is it's our new, oops, no, I'm transcribing my words. Nobody needs that. Let's just fix that. There we go. So the PL Hub at gmb.ca is our one-stop shop for New Brunswick educators on the Anglophone side to find all kinds of professional development that's going on. So there is a page dedicated to the new teacher learning community. And so all of our videos are housed there, and our handbook is housed there. But more than that, like if there's professional development happening with Science East, if there's professional development happening with Get Outside, any of our partners, APSI partners. I'm trying to think of all the people that I've met with, but I've met with so many people to have them join our site so that all the PL that's going on in the province, eventually it's all going to be housed there. So we're kind of the spot to go and find where everything else is, and then it's linked out to all of our partners. So on the March break, if you want to just take a peek and scroll through and see what it is, and then if you're ever wondering, gosh, I really would love some resources in middle level science, or K-2 literacy, or whatever, all of it is being housed there. So we're moving things over slowly. Eventually this will be our one place where we find everything. So feel free to take a look there. And if anyone goes on and find something that they really like and it's really useful, the first 5 people that email me back and tell me what you found, I might have a little bit of swag to send out your way. So I'll save that. So I'm just going to, we're at time now, and I'm going to turn it over to Krista here, who's joined us from the East. So this year we decided to have each district do one PL, an after school PL, and we are always so grateful that you guys find the time to join us. It's so important for you, and it's also so important for us because we want to see you and want to check in with you, want to see how you're doing. So I'm going to turn it over. Today's subject is teacher resiliency, which, February 29th, what teacher doesn't need to hear some information about teacher resiliency? So I will stay on with you, but I'm going to turn off my camera. It is being recorded. So away you go. Enjoy the session. And Krista, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. So I'm being respectful of people's time, we're going until 4:45. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Oh, no. Okay. What time? 3. Yeah, 3. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Is that right?
We started at 3:45. These are an hour. We have one session with each district. That's an hour. So yes, you are correct.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So I just want to make sure before I start, can everyone see that?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, wonderful. So before we begin, I'd just like to do a territorial acknowledgement. I understand that we're not all in the territory of the Mi'kmaq people, but I'm just going to pay respect to the Mi'kmaq people as I'm delivering the presentation from here. So I gather on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people who shared their land in peace. Peace and friendship treaties with the Mi'kmaq continue to bind us together as we strive for reconciliation. I like to say reconciliation instead of reconciliation because I like to know that I'm doing my part in taking action to show my respect. And in our work together today and moving forward, we continue to honor that original promise of ongoing respect, peace, and friendship. All right, so I want to thank everyone who's in attendance here today, especially for those that have showed up on their day off today. This was an unexpected day off, and so to still come out, that means a lot that you were willing to do that. So my name is Krista Royama, and I've been with Anglophone East since 2005. I am married. I have 2 kids. My son's name is Jonah. He's 19 years old, and my daughter's name is Lexi. She's 14. And they both have went through the school system. My daughter's in grade 9, but my son has since graduated. I also have a dog named Pippin, and she is my best friend. She's pretty special to me. She's a Lagotto Romagnolo. It's a type of breed of dog from Italy that truffle hunts. We do not truffle hunt, but that is what she's bred to do. Anyway, she's bad and makes really bad choices, but I think that's what I love about her the most. Um, I've been a teacher for 12 years, and I went back to school after being in the classroom and realizing very quickly that, wow, there's lots of different hats that we wear in the classroom. One of which is counselor, and I wasn't trained to be a counselor, but I absolutely believe in, building rapport and connection with my kiddos. And so with that came trust, and then with that came some pretty intimate stories of things that had happened to some of them, and I just wasn't trained to help them. So I just decided that I wanted to go back to school to do my master's and be able to still stay as an educator, but like going down the role of school counselor. So that's what I did. I was a school counselor at a middle school for 4 years. And then the last 3 years, I've been in ESS with the district as a school counselor lead with Anglophone East School District. So, yeah. I'd like to take a moment right now and congratulate everyone on a truly rewarding career path and a career choice. I know it doesn't always feel that way some days. Some days you're thinking, I would imagine, like, what was I thinking? What am I doing? Is this really what I want to do? But I'm telling you, there's so much room for professional growth, for personal growth in this field. And I just want to congratulate you on that. You've worked hard to get to where you are today, and you need to be proud of that. I would really encourage you to do that. I remember working one of my years of teaching. I had a class. I was approached, actually, I was coming back from maternity leave, and I was approached by my principal to ask if I'd be willing to take on this class of grade 8 boys. There was 13 of them in the class, and they were all had behavioral challenges. So I had to think about it. I went home, I watched Michelle Pfeiffer's movie Dangerous Minds, and then I was like, yep, I'm in. So so I ended up working with this class, and to date, I have not learned more from a class as I did from that group. They were amazing. And fast forward years later, I'm out walking my dog with my husband, and this car pulls up beside me, and they're like, "Hey, Mrs. R," and it was one of those students, and he said, "I've been hoping I could cross paths with you because I wanted to thank you for believing in me when at a time in my life when no one else did." And he said, "Because of you, it pushed me to go through, uh, stick with my math, get good grades, believe in myself." And because of that, he ended up getting a $30,000 scholarship towards his first year university, which was incredible. So that's what I mean when I say, like, this is such a rewarding career path, because not to say I got those stories every day, because I didn't, but I've had a few of them along the ways for being in this career for a number of years, and that those moments are so special. So I share that with you, but I also want to validate for you that I understand that teaching can be very draining on us. It can be draining on us physically, it can be draining on us emotionally, mentally. And if we don't listen to our bodies and our emotions, taking breaks, of course, when needed, and learning to set boundaries to protect our mental health and well-being, it can be a pretty tough feat. So I remember my first year teaching. I was teaching at the high school here in Sackville. And I literally remember traveling to school every day, and I kid you not, it was with a laundry basket, because that's how many books I had to take home on a nightly basis, because I literally had to teach myself some of these courses and lessons before I could go in and teach it to the kids. Like, it truly was a year of survival. It's funny, I may not be able to remember all my courses I taught over the years, because I've taught quite a few different grade levels. But I remember that one as if it was yesterday I was going to school. And it was grade 10 science, an 11 level 3 math, grade 11 level 3 biology, a grade 12 child studies course. And I also had an 11-month-old baby at the time, and I actually had little to no support at school. So it was a really tough year for me, and that's why I want so desperately to validate for you, if you are in that position, that if you hopefully from this workshop that you'll have a few takeaways that can really work with this in helping you to feel better, to stick it through and honor boundaries that I hope to help you establish today and give you some food for thought about that so that you can uh, sustain a career as an educator. Because you got to remember, many of us who have chosen this as our career path is because we're givers at heart. And that's why, in a lot of ways, we end up in these types of career positions, right? So I really want to reiterate for you the importance of resiliency and well-being, especially when we are in the role of giver, if that makes sense. I want to take a moment now, just because I'm not sure where everyone's coming from. Some people have cleaned their houses today, others have gone to work. And so I just want to take a moment, if you will, and let's just settle into this where we are so we can be present for the rest of the workshop and give ourselves permission to be here. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if you'd like to, or you can just keep them open, that's fine. We're going to focus on today how you're feeling. So take a nice deep breath in through your nose and then out through your mouth. And continue breathing as you focus on the way your body feels right now. How are you feeling physically? Are you in any pain or discomfort? Is any part of your body cold or hot? What does your body feel like? Take a moment to sit in that. Continue breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And when you're finished, gently shift your focus on the way your mind is feeling. Are you tired today? Feeling anxious? Are you content, perhaps excited with the break just around the corner? And then I'll ask you, how do you know that you're feeling that way? How is that showing up in your body for you? And what is making you feel this way? Ask yourself if there's anything that you need to do to change how you're feeling physically or emotionally. And when you're finished, take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, and slowly open your eyes. So this is a wonderful way for you to ground yourself. You can do this with family members or even students. If you notice that they're getting a little heightened or escalated or something, and you just need to bring them back into the present moment, of course, reminding yourself and reminding them, whoever that may be, your family member or students, that the only tense we actually have control over is the present moment. So if people are sitting in feelings about a past event or something like that, or even worrying about something that may or may not come to fruition in the future, it is important to remind ourselves that we really don't have that control. The only control we have is in the here and the now. And so it is a nice way to bring us back to being back in the present moment. That's called a guided meditation. All right, so let's start with resilience and what it is. The American Psychological Association defines resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant sources of stress. And the Oxford Concise English Dictionary defines resilience as the ability to withstand or recover quickly from a difficult situation. We've all encountered rough patches in life and have found ways to come through that. And yes, some things may have taken longer than others. But I am sure that we have all had those things in our lives that we practice when going gets tough, that help ground us and regulate our emotions. In the classroom specifically, teachers new and seasoned may experience a host of challenges which include but are not limited to this list. So if we take a look at classroom management, for example, maintaining discipline and creating a positive learning environment can be challenging. We know that, especially when dealing with diverse students, their personalities and behaviors. Time management, balancing the demands of lesson planning, right? Grading, professional development, and personal life can sometimes feel very overwhelming for new teachers. Differentiated instruction, so addressing the diverse needs and learning styles of students in one class, in one classroom requires skill in adapting teaching methods to accommodate various learning abilities. The fun lesson planning that we get to do, developing those effective lesson plans, sometimes that engage students and align with curriculum standards can be time consuming for new teachers, especially when you're first like just getting started. Or you, I mean, in my case, geez, like I go from my high school, my first year to middle school in my second year to I'm sure I've been in every classroom in the middle school teaching a different grade and a different course load. And so it's almost like you're big, it just felt like year after year, it was like beginning teacher again and again and again. But I mean, I always try to find the bless in the mess, if you will, or the glimmers, the takeaways, and one of which was I I got to be comfortable. I might not, one struggle I had was that I felt like, geez, not fair. Like this one teacher's been in the same classroom for 20 years, teaching the same course and same grade. They've mastered that, right? So I remember feeling that kind of like comparing myself to them. But the beauty, I guess, from moving around a lot is that you actually get a really nice bird's eye view, if you will, of the curriculum. Because now when I'm teaching grade six, all of a sudden, I know what was taught in grade five because I did it, right? And I know what's taught in grade seven. So it actually helps you to really hone in on the important stuff in that curriculum. Um, so I guess that was one takeaway I got from, getting through that and kind of getting past that feeling like it wasn't fair that I was always being moved to a different grade level and different course load. Parent-teacher communication can be overwhelming sometimes. So establishing and maintaining effective communication with parents, of course, is crucial. We know that, and navigating those difficult conversations can be a challenge sometimes for us new teachers. Collaborating with colleagues, so building positive relationships with colleagues, administrators, and support staff is important, but navigating those professional dynamics within a school can be challenging too for new teachers. And assessment and feedback. So designing fair and meaningful assessments and providing constructive feedback to students while managing the grading workload can also be challenging at times. So I at the very bottom of the slides, I put little asterisks with little key reminders. So remember in this case, even though all those things I mentioned, that's not even an exhaustive list of some of the common challenges for new teachers. I'm sure there's probably plenty more that you can think of just as we go through that list. However, just remember setting realistic goals for yourself. Remember that it's quality over quantity, and also to celebrate small victories is huge. We can help reduce the level of overwhelm and stress and build resilience by implementing, self-care every single day. I do want to mention this book I've come across is called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, and it's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. I would really recommend, I wouldn't dare say, oh, you should go out and get that and read that, come when you come back from March break. No, like I'm talking like summer read or something like that that you can enjoy doing on your own time to really absorb. But what I love so much about this book is that it talks about the stress cycle and the importance of completing your stress cycle every single day. And it's through simple things. The biggest takeaway for me is setting your intentions before you go to do whatever it is you're going to do to complete your stress cycle for the day. But some of the things they mention in that book is actually things like a 30-second hug. Like, I don't know if you've ever hugged a family member for, it doesn't have to be 30 seconds exactly, but like I've hugged my son before and I felt that big sigh or that the shoulders relax. That is him completing his stress cycle when he does that. Um, There's actually in the book they mention a 4-second kiss, which is actually a lot longer. 4-second kiss is actually a lot longer than you think it is. And what was another thing that they mentioned? Yeah, like talking to somebody who is lighthearted, watching a YouTube channel that makes you laugh, or TikTok videos, or go old school and watch a half-hour sitcom of Seinfeld or something like that that just cracks you up and makes you laugh. And something like that could be ways to complete your stress cycle. There's many ways to do that. But the cool thing is that if you think, oh my gosh, I couldn't add one more thing to my plate if I wanted to, I couldn't. You can actually incorporate completing your stress cycle into something you already do. So just as a quick example, if you're in the shower, say you shower in the evening, and when you have your shower, sure, you're in there to clean yourself, but you could also take a moment while you're cleaning yourself to visualize the stress of the day going down the drain. And that could be you just setting your intentions that that's what your shower is going to be about, completing your stress cycle as well as cleaning yourself to be able to do that. Does that make sense with everyone? All right, mindfulness and stress reduction. So something as simple as planting both of your feet firmly on the ground at your desk can help ground you in the present moment. Monthly massages. So being proactive and setting up monthly massages could be a way for you to help reduce your stress and be more mindful. And give you something to look forward to too, if you're into that sort of thing. Doing weekly facial masks can be something that you could do, right? As a way to, be less stressful and more mindful in the present moment. Or you could do all of the above. So just be thoughtful in maybe what works for you. Breathing exercises. Okay, so there are so many different breathing exercises out there, I'm sure you're aware of. There's one I really like called colorful breathing. So it's where you choose your favorite color, and that is what you inhale. So when you're breathing in, picture that color going up through your nose and filling your whole body. And then maybe I've added one more piece to that is I say words like peace, calm, productive, right? And then you have your least favorite color as you exhale, and that's what comes through your nose, out through your mouth. It can come through your ears, it can come through anywhere you want it to come, out the bottom of your toes. And maybe you're repeating words like frustration, overwhelm, chaos. And then you would repeat that. So that actually would be a nice thing to do, again, with your kids. You could do it on your drive home, on your drive to work, sort of that transition period. You could set up some time to do that. One of my most favorite breathing exercises, and this is the one I actually do honestly every night because I read every night when I get into bed. No matter how tired I am, this is just what I do. It's my thing I do and I enjoy it. So I get into bed and I read. But before I do, I'll often say to my husband, okay, I'm just going to do my breathing exercise for a sec. And I set my intention in my mind that that is to complete my stress cycle for the day. And this breathing exercise is simply breathing in for the count of 3 to 5 seconds, holding your breath for 3 to 5 seconds, and then breathing out for 3 to 5 seconds. So you're breathing in, hold, and out. What that does is it actually sends a message to your brain that the coast is clear. There's nothing to be stressed. I don't need to be in survivor mode where I'm in fight, flight, or freeze. And it just helps to reset your entire body. I do it often when I'm driving, if I'm stressed out at work or at the end of the day, and certainly when I get into bed. So that could be something you could do. Another one is alternate nostril breathing. If you have not heard tell of that, you can find lots of videos of that on YouTube. So you can look up that if you're interested in checking that out. Progressive muscle relaxation is another something you could try as a self-care practice. So essentially, a nice time to do this again is lying in bed, maybe in the morning before you get out of bed or at night when you get up. Or sorry, when you go to bed, and you start at your toes and you kind of clench your toes, not to the point of tension, but you do want to create tension. You don't want to overdo it. And you hold that for 3 to 5 seconds. And then you move up to your calves and you clench, tighten those muscles for 3 to 5 seconds, hold, relax. And then you do the same with your thighs and your stomach. You make fists with your hands. You tense up your arms, right? You bring up your shoulders to your ears. All the meanwhile, you're holding 3 to 5 seconds. You scrunch up your face And then what I like to do at the end when I do all of that is I tense my entire body and hold for 3 to 5 seconds and then just release. And notice when you release, like the tingling, you're feeling energy move through your body. I mean, it's so beautiful. And it's a great way to release all those muscle tension and relieving of stress. And again, if you set your intention that I'm going to do this to complete my stress cycle, then that's a perfect way to do that as well. I also wanted to mention the importance, I think people don't realize the importance of connecting with nature, reading, writing, meditation, if that's your thing, yoga practice, any of those things. So, setting your intentions, just as a quick example, would be like if I was going out for a walk and I set my intentions like, oh, I'm going to go out, this is going to be to complete my stress cycle. And I go out for a walk, and all I do in my walk is I think about, shoot, I got that right. I forgot to do that. Okay, I got to make a mental note to write that down when I get home. And you're going through this checklist as you're out for a walk. You haven't actually completed your stress cycle because you've just been spent the whole time in your head, right? Thinking about all the things you have to do when you get home. So I would encourage you when you set your intention, it's more like a mindful walk. Pick a sense. I love smells, so I often will pick the sense of smell. And as I'm out for my walk, I'm really taking, oh, it smells like it's going to snow. Oh, I can smell a fire. Somebody has a fire going. That reminds me of Halloween for some reason. And you're going through that. And of course, your mind is going to come back to that checklist, but don't judge it. Just move on. Yep, I see you, but you're not in this conversation right now. And you kind of go back to focusing on smells or sights or whatever it is. And so that's what I mean about setting your intention. So see the difference if you go for a walk and you set that intention where you focused on smells, you're in the present moment as opposed to being in your head. Yes, you reap the benefits of exercise, yes, and moving your body. However, you've spent the majority of the walk not being mindful because you're just worrying about the things you have to do. So that setting intention piece is so important. There are some self-care ideas that I am going to send along to Amber. Would I send it to you or Craig Hutchings or both maybe? Because I was going to send the PowerPoint and this as well for teachers that have participated, if that maybe we could email them a copy of this so they would have that.
Absolutely. You can send it to me. I share it with the whole province distribution list. So
Okay, wonderful. So I'll do that because there's a couple of things that I'd like to be able to do as well. A couple other attachments I'll send to you as well. Okay. All right, so some strategies for building resilience. So establish healthy boundaries. So what are boundaries? We hear this word all the time. Those are those limits and those rules that we set for ourselves within the different settings and relationships in our lives. So know your limits, know your values. Practice listening to your emotions and bodily sensations as well, especially when things start to get overwhelming. Like I know as new teachers where there's often this like unwritten expectation or obligation or something, and I don't know where it necessarily comes from, but it's that one where we feel we need to step up, right? We need to step up to the plate and take on this club and take on that club and coach this team and run that association. Except like it is vital to your own mental health and well-being and longevity in this career to know your limits. Like it's okay to say no to some things. Prepare yourself to accept that you're not going to please everyone all the time and that that's okay. Remind yourself that you are a team player. And I think that's important too. We feel like we're not a team player if we are to say no every now and then. Not at all. You're still a team player. You're just honoring yourself as well. Remember that you're a giver at heart. A lot of us that get into this career, as I said at the beginning, and in order to sustain a career as an educator, you have to spread the love, right? So a little here, a little there, like so important. And remind yourself too, as a beginning teacher, like it's okay to be gentle with yourself and not take on off more than you can chew. Because guess what? You're already taking on lots as a beginning teacher. So it's okay to honor and give yourself permission to honor that. So, all that being said, I encourage you today, maybe even to reflect on this and maybe come up with a couple of boundaries that you can set for yourself, either in your workplace or at home or both. If you feel like, if you're to be honest with yourself, like, yeah, I guess there is room for improvement there. Should probably be a bit better about that. Okay. So, building a support system. So, protective factors. So, those are those things in our lives that we have that help to maintain our mental health and well-being. For example, if you head out in the morning, right, and you go to start your car and it doesn't start, but you know Betty, your neighbor, is always there to give you a lift in a pinch, then that's someone you could reach out to. That would be considered a protective factor. It's someone that you know you can count on. Other protective factors include, but like they're not limited to, coping strategies, having coping strategies, um, monitoring our self-esteem, how we speak to ourselves. Remember, we believe everything we tell ourselves. So put that little bug in your ear to remind you of that, because if you have a tough time, I'm one of them where we are the hardest on ourselves. I don't know why we do that, but we tend to falter to that. The expectations we set on ourselves, we would never put that on someone else. So a different perspective would be see it as a friend. If you're having a tough time being able to do that, maybe look at yourself as a friend, or your situation rather as a friend. If a friend came to you with feeling this way, what would you tell them? And you might be more apt to be able to give better suggestions, more gentle suggestions. Healthy thinking is another protective factor to keep in mind. And our sense of purpose. That's also important, having a sense of purpose. Within your school environment, looking to connect with those like-minded colleagues, establish good working relationships. Additionally, you could seek mentorship through a seasoned teacher as well. And consider even being proactive, booking an appointment with your EAP, that Employment Assistance Program, just for some counseling on dealing with stress or time management. I remember when I did my master's, my first year I was granted an ed leave, which was wonderful. So I did my first year at home that I was a full-time student. It was great. But then the second year I was still doing my master's and I had to go back to work. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I had two younger kids at the time. How am I going to manage all of this? And I actually, one of my big papers I wrote was on time management. And I actually did go into EAP. I booked an appointment. I was being proactive and I set up appointments regarding that exact thing, time management. How was I going to handle that? And so being proactive, I did it before I approached that time was so helpful because then I was able to approach it with a much more healthy, I guess, mindset, if you will. So I'd encourage you to do that. But remember, seeking such supports, get creative and form your own support group like a book club or something, and then utilize those resources and supports. So seek, create, utilize. All right. So we've looked at some strategies for building resiliency. So now let's take a peek at a few strategies to help with our well-being. National Geographic actually did a study on, they wanted to know what makes the happiest people in the world happy. Like what do they have in common? And so what they discovered is there were three P's. There was pride. So people, these happiest people had pride in themselves, in their community, in their families. They had purpose. So they set purpose to their day. And they had pleasure. So they actually made time for pleasure-seeking activities through passions and hobbies and things like that. So I always try to remind myself of that too. So purpose, pleasure, and pride. So other strategies for practicing wellness, this is physical wellness. So moving your body. Our bodies were meant to move. You're going to think I'm so cheesy when I say this, but the shopping channel. I was watching the shopping channel. My mom's addicted to it. And there was this woman on there doing the treadmill or whatever, and she said, your motion is lotion. And I thought it's so cheesy, but it's so true. Like, do you ever have like aches and pains? Well, I know I do as I'm aging. I actually started grunting when I get up. I need to stop doing that. Every time I get up, I make like a grunting noise. Not cool. So I am going to stop doing that. However, motion is lotion, and I find if I say stay stationary, that's when it hurts, is when I go to get up and I haven't moved in a while. So I would encourage you to move your body in any way that you want. Doesn't have to be a structured gym class or, oh, I'm a failure because I don't have a gym membership. Not at all. It could be dancing while you're cleaning, putting on music and setting that environment up, right? 80/20 rule. So keeping that in mind for physical wellness, like I like the 80/20 rule. I love chips. I don't think I will. I wish I could be so turned off of chips that I would never eat them again. It's probably never going to happen because I wish that so much and it still hasn't happened. I would encourage you 80% of the time make healthy choices, 20% of the time enjoy those luxuries in life, right? The nachos, the ice cream, the chocolate, whatever it is. Um, Hobby. Find a hobby. And don't forget to like you could look back over your younger years and be like, oh, I used to love to do that or whatever. And you want to maybe revisit that. But maybe you've grown out of that and you don't want to do said hobby anymore, but maybe be open to trying to find a new one. So, um, something even simple like coloring. Gosh, I remember I loved coloring when I was younger. So every now and then I will pull out a coloring book and I will color, and it feels wonderful. And I'm a much better colorer in my 40s than I was in my, teens or younger. So I don't know, just something like that. I've started doing those diamond dots. Those are fun too. They're so pretty as well. So that could be something to try, or a paint night, or anything like that. So, and taking healthy risks, trying something new. So, I mean, little things like it could be something simple like changing up your walking route, you know, taking a walk through the woods if you never do that, or going out for pickleball on Monday nights and going to a dance class, something like that. So those could be examples. I wanted to mention non-negotiables. I think of these things such as drinking enough water in our day, eating meals. That includes a lunch break. I know that's probably easier said than done because there's plenty of people that don't do that. But if you can, even to start by giving yourself, okay, I take no lunch for 5 days a week, not sustainable. So chunk it for start with 2 days a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I don't have duty, so I'm going to take those and I'm going to have a lunch break, right? Just start slow and try to create a bit of a habit with it. Getting enough sleep, keeping our bodies active, practicing good hygiene, those are all non-negotiables. I don't believe they should be part of our self-care routine. Like, oh, I fed myself today as part of my self-care routine. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I think that should be just a non-negotiable. Just the same way we would probably never go to work without brushing our teeth. It's a non-negotiable. It's just something we do. So that is really important in helping to maintain good physical, emotional, mental health and well-being. And again, so this is more positive steps to well-being attachment that I will be sending so that you'll have that to take a peek at. So emotional wellness. Taking part of our well-being is very important in recognizing and tending to our emotional health. So I put scaling tasks up there as an example. So what those are essentially is a number line from 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, and you kind of like monitor where you are at on that scale. So you can have for any emotion you want. I often, for me, when I start feeling overwhelmed, my anxiety kicks in. So I tend to do an anxiety scale for me because I know full well in my body and emotions what I feel like when I'm at a 0, which for me, 0 is cool, calm, and collected. And I do 10. So 10 would be a full-blown panic attack. And I've been on both ends of the scale. So if I can monitor where I am, because a lot of times we're so busy in our day that we push through, we ignore, we just keep going. And that's why that book Burnout talks about the stress cycle is this idea of accumulating over time. And then we end up with like you get sick or your immune system is, because your immune system is shot down the road, potential even more serious issues, other than a cold or a flu can arise from not completing our stress tight cycles. So the scaling task is a great way to check in with ourselves and where we are with that particular emotion we tend to struggle with. So if it's anger or sadness or depression or anxiety, you can gauge yourself. Because let me tell you, when I'm at a 7 or an 8 on that scale, there's very little that I can do at that point. I need to kind of ride the waves until it passes. And whether that's a good cry, an outburst, sometimes a nap, that's usually my go-to strategies for when I'm really heightened. But if I can catch it, because I've checked in with myself and I'm at a 4, and I implement a strategy right then and there, and I make that a priority no matter how busy I am, and it doesn't have to take long. I'm going to step outside and breathe some cold, fresh air, for example, or I'm going to put my work aside and I'm going to go get a cold glass of water or hop in the shower or pet my dog or whatever it is. It can be little simple things like that can help you either stay at that 4 or even come shift down a little bit so that you get closer to that 0 if you've chosen on your scaling test that 0 is cool, calm, and collected. So that's an example of a scaling task. So self check-ins are things like, kind of like that mindful meditation that we did. How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling emotionally? You can check in with yourself in the morning, check in with yourself at lunch, check in with yourself at the end of the day. And then you can address what you need to address if you feel like actually my back is really sore. So maybe it's time to hop in the hot tub or to do some stretching or go in for a hot bath or something like that. See what I mean? Those check-ins are really important because it helps you to stay in the present moment and deal with any ailments that might be going on or bothering you and address them then and there so they don't have to continue to sit with you and drag you down. So my boss told me one time, how do you want to show up today? When I had approached her about a personal issue. And I've never forgotten that. And I put that on a sticky note on my coffee pot for, I can't even tell you how many months that it was stained with coffee. And it was, how do you want to show up today? And it was when I got up in the mornings, first place to go is coffee. And I'd say, okay, how do you want to show up today? So I would say to myself, well, I want to have purpose to my day. I want to feel like I've accomplished something by the end of the day. I don't need to be doing backflips with happiness, but just to feel like maybe calm, like less anxiety would be great, that sort of thing. And so then when I've set my intentions for my day, and so when I go to work, and we all have them in our workplaces, let's be real, in our personal lives, we have those negative people that sometimes, if we're not careful, that their toxicity can sort of seep into us and then we become more pessimistic, right? And that's what was happening to me, I'd find. Then I'd get negative, and that's where you catch yourself. It's that self-check and be like, "Oh, how did you want to show up today?" And so right then and there you can address whatever you need to do to reset yourself if you hold yourself accountable. So I found that actually very, very helpful. I did some training for actually it was EECD had funded this for tapping by the ocean. So it's called Emotion Freedom Techniques. It's amazing. And I've done a lot of like the idea when you're funded by EECD, a lot of times it's the idea like, how are you going to bring this back to the district and help others, right? So I have done Mental Health Youth Summit talks on this stuff. I've held a kiosk at a youth summit. I've done talks with teachers about EFT techniques. So I really feel like I've utilized this training and have helped many be able to do that. It's tapping, if you've ever heard of tapping. So at the end of this, I know it's 52 minutes. I want to be mindful of your time. So if we have time at the end, I'd like to be able to run through a couple of like emergency techniques that you can do. But I believe this is the page here, just sort of that I printed. This is what you're going to get. And so that as a reminder, like a little bit of a visual for you to be able to remind yourself, oh yeah, what was she saying? Tap here. So, but I'd like to show you on the camera once I turn off my presentation. So, but you'll get that one as well. And so I just want to quickly recap. So, completing your stress cycle every day, setting your intentions. I think it was Dr. Seuss that said, if you can set your intentions, if you can conquer your mind first thing in the morning, the rest of the day will be easy. So it's that mindset shift. How do you want to show up today? Be a great way to start that conversation with yourself. Establish and honor boundaries. Regulate your emotions through connecting with nature, through those protective factors to maintain your mental health and well-being, coping strategies, all those things. Don't be afraid to seek supports and networks with colleagues, with friends, with like-minded people in the community, through your EAP program, asking for some support there with counseling. And above all else, to create balance, because you can't be everything to everyone all the time. It's just not sustainable. So you have to be willing to spread the love. So that is my presentation for today. I would like, if we have a few minutes, I'd like to just show you a couple of those EFT techniques. So I'm just going to come out of here.
Krista, thank you so much. That was really enjoyable.
Oh, my pleasure. My goodness. Um, okay, so I just want to show you. So can you still see me, by the way? Can everyone
We
see me?
absolutely can. Yeah.
Okay, so one emergency technique, and these are just so as you're driving, watching TV, this is when I typically do these. So these actually will help block unblocked energy in your body. So if you're holding on to trauma, tension, stress, whatever, this can sometimes help to, not sometimes it will. Actually, the cool thing about tapping I love the most is you don't even have to believe in it and it will still work. So that was like that sold me right when the trainer had told us that from day one. But right here where your sternum is, if you can see me, is you just tap. There doesn't have to be any number, like amount of times that you do it or what rhythm you go at. You can switch hands if you want to. The idea is you just tap, just tap. So I do that sometimes when I'm watching TV, and like I said, sometimes when I'm driving, because I actually had a 13-year phobia of driving on the highway, where I avoided the highway for 13 years. And so this was a big one that actually helped me, especially to this day, like even passing transport trucks. Sometimes I find I hold my breath, and so I'll just tap through it, right? You'll be able to tell every body is different, but you'll be able to tell if energy is starting to move. For me, for whatever reason, I get my toes start to tingle a little, and that's energy flowing through your body. So I'm starting to break up any blocked energy, which is kind of cool. Rubbing your K27s is like just making little fists, and they're just right here, and you're just rubbing. So that's another emergency technique for calming your body. You can tap your sides of your hands right here. Again, either side, it doesn't matter. So if one hand gets sore, you can switch over to the other. That's a good one. Um, and tapping the gamut is another one. So between your pinky and ring finger, right along here, you just tap. Everyone finds their favorite one. I find the tapping the sternum easy just because it's just I could still do things with my other hand and like if I'm driving or something, right? Now, I say that you don't even have to believe in it and it'll work. The only thing I want to mention is you have to be out of fight or flight or freeze first. So how in the world do you do that? Because most of the time we don't even realize we're in fight or flight, especially if we're just going about our normal day and we're not being like scared by some dark shadow in an alley, right? That would then you're in fight or flight, but fight, fright, or freeze. But what you can do is you can take two fingertips and right above your hairline and your forehead meet, you just gently place them there. And you can practice this now or you can do this on your own time. It's fine. But essentially, what you want to do, and you have to be patient because if you are in survival mode at all, you won't feel the pulse. But what you want to ultimately do is feel a pulse. And so you may end up feeling, oh, I feel it on my left hand. So what you want to do is just again be patient and stay there and wait until it syncs up. And you should feel a light pulse in both fingertips on both hands. What you've done at that point is you've actually drawn blood to an oxygen to your prefrontal cortex, which is our logical, rational part of our brain. So once we do that and we can feel that pulse and it has synced, so we feel it in both fingertips on both hands, we are no longer in a survival mode. At that point, you can then start your tapping and it will be effective. So I hope that makes sense. Um, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding that. If anybody is really interested in like knowing more about that, I'd be happy to do that for sure. But I will send that infographic so that you have that as well, just as a reminder. And there were two more things I wanted to mention too. There was the neurovascular head hold. I don't know. I find it so calming and it's so simple. You just put your hand on your forehead and another hand on the back of your head, and you just hold them together. And there is something so nurturing about this. It makes me feel like when you're a baby, and you're just held by mama. It's very calming. The other thing is the cross crawl. So you start at your shoulder, your opposite side in your hand, and you just sweep down past your hip. So you just kind of like, it's like and you just alternate and you just go back and forth. This is great if you find you're in a bad mood and you want to get out of that bad mood. You're not really sure why you're in one, but you're in one. I have a teenager, so I use this a lot because you can actually do it on their back. So you can get them to turn around and you can just go down their back, alternating just down their back. And that will help to clear that energy. So those were just a couple things I wanted to mention to you for through EFT techniques. What time is it? 4:35, so we actually have some time if anyone has any questions or anything like that. I would be happy to.
They are a shy group when it comes to questions.
Sure, you can put them in chat too, because I do have that opened up here. So feel free if you okay, Amber, so throat punching is not what you're suggesting. I love it.
I just, I just want to be clear.
Oh, and my mom loves the shopping channel too. That's hilarious. The burnout book, there it is there. Yeah. I'm just starting at the top because I was in my own like zone when I was doing my presentation. So as a
Yeah, I
10-year
read the
supply,
burnout book too, and I loved it.
isn't
Great.
it? It's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's just see here. Yes, you have a great vantage point.
I can tell with the throat punching that Amber just wants to keep her options open.
That is so funny. That is honestly, that's the quote of the day right there.
I'm an equal opportunity calmist.
I love that about you.
Yeah, I've got something for everybody.
No, thank you so much for that. You did a great job taking a big subject, making it accessible. I didn't feel, oh, nice. Thank you so much for that. Maybe we can teach that to our students. Their prefrontal sometimes need that blood. It's so true. And honestly, a lot of them, it's not even like, it's not even developed yet at that point, right? That's the thing. Not fully anyway. Although I can think of a few adults that it's not developed either. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So my goodness, I'm seeing lots of thank yous and you're so welcome. You know, I don't toot myself as being like a Miss Know-it-all because I certainly have plenty and I've done a lot of growing myself, honestly, from just going into doing my master's in counseling because I learned a lot. I have anxiety. I let it for years define who I was for years. So I certainly am talking from a place as someone who's been through this and experienced and knows so full well what those feelings of overwhelm feel like. So I really hope I was able to validate for you, and give you some hope that, you know, it's it does not have to define you. You did choose the right career path. There's so much room for growth and movement and everything that it's a very rewarding career. You just have to learn to honor your own boundaries. You have to do that. And you have to spend time with like-minded people because we're going to be in, doesn't matter if you're working at a McDonald's or a school district or some other job out there, you're always going to run into a mix of people. And so spend your time, your energy on the people that make you feel good about yourself, accept you for who you are. Don't over burden you and expect unrealistic expectations, right? So,
Thank you so much, Krista. This
oh,
was
you're
really
welcome.
enjoyable. So I appreciate it. For those of you who are still on the call, remember we have our monthly check-ins. I canceled them this week because I just knew everybody was just done, which is completely acceptable. You can be done and you can recharge your batteries. So I'll have those up and running again for April. For those of you who attended PL and you had the opportunity to order some swag, a shirt or sweatshirt or whatever, those will be delivered to you in March. And as I said, if anyone goes on the PL Hub and does some sourcing, the first 5 people that come back to me with something, I'll send you out some swag in the mail, and our full PL day in June. I look forward to seeing you all. So thank you so much. The next time we have a monthly check-in, it's with the South. And it's I've forgotten what we've called it, Cindy. I'm sorry. Do you remember what we've called it?
Formative assessment.
There we go. Yeah. Formative assessment. Sorry, we had a few floating titles there. So formative assessment will be our last online hour PL that we offer you. So enjoy your March break, sleep in, eat all the things, snuggle with all the things, buy all the things, do all the things. Maybe drink all the things, but don't drive, but enjoy all of the things. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Amber. And thank you, Craig, again for this opportunity. It was, I really, really appreciate it and was honored to do it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Krista.
you.